Welcome to another episode with Loans Elevated. My name is Broch Lassig, top 1% loan officer nationwide.
And I'm TJ Heidenreich. Together we bring the latest news, strategies, and insights in the mortgage and real estate industry. Go ahead, start off.
You don't want to? I got an idea. Okay. Welcome back to our next episode, and today we decided to bring up a new topic, not quite on trend with everything else we do, and this is B.Y.O.B. So bring your own beer. And we wanted to talk about how you do that properly if you're attending a house party or something like that.
Housewarming party specifically.
Yeah. So we wanted to keep it real estate related, but
Yep.
dive into what our
Bring your own beer. So honestly, this we had, it's BYOB, but it's become your own bank. So last week we talked about the two strategies that we use: the buy, sell, reinvest, and
buy, rent.
And oftentimes we couple that with BYOB, become your own bank, especially the last couple of years or the last year, because rates have been higher than they were years before. And everyone is so concerned with the monthly payment. They've got a monthly payment in mind. If the monthly payment does not make sense to them, they don't want to buy.
Yeah, it stops the buying process. One thing that I want to just tag in here real quick, so we make sure we talk about how we leverage this in depending on the market.
Yep.
So you touched on how we leverage it right now with the high rates, the unaffordable situation. We want to talk about some stories on how success stories we've had. I just had one yesterday. But in the previous market, we were working with a ton of clients on this become your own bank strategy to help them remain more liquid and reinvest that money into maximizing their wealth. So we're going to touch on that just a little bit, but it is still applicable when rates are low. We'll focus more on the affordability issue because that's where we find ourselves in the market now. But next week, we're going to go into a deeper part of become your own bank, but even deeper, it's leveraging and maximizing wealth creation potential with this. So stay tuned for that one. Today, we'll talk more along the lines of what TJ was saying, solving the affordability issue. But I didn't want to forget to drop that little tip and something that we're excited about talking about next week.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I mean, dive into the actual specific examples of what BYOB means and why we use it. And I've got a story I want to share about a past client that just helped last year.
And I do too. So I was going to start with a story. You fill in the blanks and then you share your story.
Yeah, for sure.
So this was just yesterday I spoke to a client. It was a new referral from a past client of mine. And I helped this past client with this strategy about a year ago. And they had worked with a lender in the past and they just kept hitting brick walls. They couldn't actually accomplish what they wanted, which was to upgrade their home for many reasons. Everyone has their own reasons, but it was just very unaffordable for them and their family. And I came up with this strategy. They were stoked, could not even believe that we were able to help them accomplish it. And what I often tell clients is this strategy is something you can employ that allows you to have your cake and eat it too. And it's crazy, but yesterday, so that client got referred to me from some other clients that I did this same thing on. And he came from another state where it was way more affordable. Real estate, like you spend $600,000 on a house in the other state. I think it was Georgia where he's from. You spend $600,000 on a house there. It is like the equivalent of a $1.5 million house here in Utah. So it's hard for him to wrap his head around spending the kind of money you have to spend to get a house here in Salt Lake, especially, which is where he was looking. And he basically said, listen, dude, I'm looking at a $600,000 house. I've got $90,000 to play with from the sale of my other house. And I just can't fathom spending $4,000 a month on a $600,000 house. It's not even meeting all of our needs as a family. And the payment is so much more than I want to spend. So I just asked some queuing questions, which I commonly do just to make sure I understand exactly what their goals are, what the needs are. Ultimately, what happened is this guy was like, man, if I could get a $700,000 house and I could get my payment in that $4,000 range, I can afford that payment. It's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow if it's not even the house that I want. So we ran through a strategy. We took that $90,000. We first paid off some debt. So all of his other debt we paid off. That's the first thing we did. That eliminated hundreds of dollars. But it was actually like north of $1,000 a month in monthly payments. So we're making the total cash flow in the household way cheaper and easier to afford. But then we only did 5% down on a $700,000 house. So we took $35,000 for the down payment plus closing costs. So it was like maybe like $45,000 or something total for the down payment. Plus he paid off the debt. In the grand scheme of things, he had about $20,000. It was like $17,000 left over after he made the down payment, paid off all the debt. And the mortgage payment, part of this included buying the rate down as well. Yep. The mortgage payment was only $4,700 on a $700,000 property. But what we know, and he knew and believed, is that here in the next couple of years, we'd be able to refinance to a lower rate. That $17,000, lo and behold, covers the delta between the $4,000 payment goal and the $4,700 actual payment. So that $700 per month delta, he could subsidize himself with that $17,000 he put on the sidelines for 2 years, which is exactly the bridge and the time horizon he needed to feel comfortable knowing that he'll refi and probably earn some more money at his job. So and by the end of the call, he was dumbfounded, like literally speechless, could not believe that he had talked to like 6 other lenders before I talked to him. No one presented this idea. And he's like, I can't believe that I understand finances as well as I do. He's talking about himself. Mm-hmm. And I talked to 6 other lenders, and this before this conversation seemed like just a lost cause. I wouldn't be able to get what I wanted for me and my family, and he was really stressing out. And he was dumbfounded because it literally got him exactly what he wanted by just getting creative on the way he's using the money,
right.
Which is crazy.
Well, the alternative there is, I'm sure another lender presented, hey, you take the $17K, buy down the rate even more, and it gets you the payment you want.
Wouldn't he even have done that?
But say it does.
Right.
Say it does. And he refinances just a year or two from now when rates come down.
Yep.
That $17K is wasted money.
100%.
It's not going towards any principal.
Yep.
And at that point, it's just like throwing it away.
Yep.
Just to get comfortable with the payment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that didn't even get him comfortable with the payment.
Yeah. And for sure, and you bring up a good point, because we talked about like, hey, we think rates are going to drop in the next like 6 to 12 months, really. And he's going to be able to get probably that $4,000 payment or something much closer to it.
Right.
But we built a runway for 2 years. So about 2 times the amount of time we think he's going to need to accomplish that goal. And I love the point you made. It's like the alternative is you spend that money on buying the rate down. Sure, you have certainty for the entire term of the loan, but that's an emotional decision, thinking through making that decision based on fear, not looking at the facts and the reality of how likely it is that rates come down. And he legit would have thrown away, to your point, 20 grand,
exactly,
$17,000 gone for good. But
it's crazy.
Anyway, it's crazy.
No, I mean, I had a client last year who he bought his house in 2008, hadn't made a move, hadn't refinanced his house ever. So he had a ton of equity. We're talking a ton of equity. And when he bought his new house, he wanted to apply all of that equity towards the new home. And have a super comfortable monthly payment.
So many people do that.
Mm-hmm. And I started talking to him, and I'm like, no, you become your own bank. You can use it in the S&P. You can use it here. You can have a nest egg, because this dude didn't even have a nest egg. $0 in savings, not a retirement plan. And he's like, no, I want to have this monthly payment. I'm like, okay, let me just hear me out. So I gave him my game plan, and he ended up going with my game plan. Fast forward, we always talk to our clients on loan anniversaries, and probably twice a year we talk to our clients minimum. So I called him on his loan anniversary, and he's like, you know what, TJ, I got to tell you, I'm so grateful we went with your plan, because now I've got almost $200,000 in my bank account as a safety net, and my job, they just cut my hours from 40 hours a week down to 20 hours a week. But he's like, I can pull from that safety net and live the same life I'm living now for up to 10 years.
With the same money.
Yep.
Like he didn't have to save it. I mean, that's the crazy thing. These are simple decisions that put you in such a more powerful position. Financially, with so much more flexibility. And
you think if he were to go with his original plan, because they cut his hours so drastically, and he had no nest egg, he would have only been able to keep the house and all of his payments for probably 6 months to a year.
Yeah, so I was going to say mitigating risk to a level that there's no other solutions. I mean, it's like it. And I told you on the Backbone that same week, I had a client tag me on a post on LinkedIn who was a very similar circumstance. The guy was a very high earner. He had tons of equity. He wanted to just pay the house off, drive the payment way down. Lo and behold, he ended up actually losing his job. He was in tech. And people are at that risk. Had he gone with his option, which basically spent all of his liquidity but got him a lower payment, the payment was still high, multiple thousands, $2,500 a month. He was buying a nice house. Had he gone with his plan, he would literally be bankrupt right now, had zero liquidity. He went with my plan, and because of that, him and his family are fine. They don't even have to, there is zero stress because he ended up pocketing, similar to your guy, hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
So we can pay the full mortgage payment
for
years.
And what people don't think about is like, oh, no, I'll just tap into equity when I need it. Well, odds are when you need it, you can't tap into it because you don't have a job.
Yep. And
It's
you
too
can't expect the unexpected. You never know when the hell it's going to happen.
Yep.
So you got to be thinking through. And that's what I think we bring a ton of value to our clients, is helping you think through the potential scenarios and put yourself in we call it holistic mortgage planning because it's a holistic plan. Right. We're optimizing the leverage in effort to help you maximize wealth creation, which TJ talked about. And most importantly, in my opinion, is mitigate risk, because if you can't mitigate risk, you're out of the game. That means you can't create wealth if you go bankrupt or lose your house to foreclosure because you don't have the risk mitigation piece figured out. So I think it's really important. And then next week, we're going to dive deep into the wealth maximization component, which is basically just a sequential follow-up and kind of bolt on to the first two ideas we talked about last week, going into B.Y.O.B, become your own bank. Now we'll go into the compounding effects of these decisions and how powerful it can be. So thanks for tuning in, guys. We appreciate you. Good.
Boom. Thank you for tuning in. For more industry insights, follow us on all platforms at Loans Elevated.
And to get in touch with our team, call or text 801-713-4000 or visit loanselevated.com.